You're about to learn some secrets that a lot of home builders don't want you to know. Hello, my name is Merle Braley, and I've been passionate about good home design and building techniques ever since I was a child, and I built my 3-story tree house. So you can imagine it was my pleasure to interview expert custom home builders John Lyle and Steve Jellycourse of MorningStar Homes. Join me now. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches and possibly thousands of dollars by watching this and all of my North Carolina home builder interviews. I've been speaking with John Lyle and Steve Jellycourse of MorningStar Homes. We've been talking about high-performance homes on the exterior. Now I'd like us to move inside the home. What is a high-performance home inside?
So let's talk about, again, some things that are maybe a little subtle. Starting with paint. Again, proper application of paint, proper specification of the paint grade. There's a really unfortunate trend in home building right now, and that is many builders are eliminating the primer stage of paint. I don't know how they can do that with a clear conscience, but it is occurring right now, and it's almost like the paint on the outside. When you paint a house on the inside with a coat of primer and without a coat of primer, just walking up to it face value and looking at it, they don't appear to be any different. But in a year's time, they're going to look very different. The first time you attempt to wipe a little dirty handprint off the wall, that's when you're going to start to notice it. Again, because there is no primer coat over the top of your caulking, the caulking is not going to weather on the inside. And if you don't think you have climate variation on the inside of your house, you do. Even though you have an heating and cooling system, there are variables in humidity levels, certainly not as drastic as on the outside. Hardwood floors, the coating on the hardwood floors, very, very important that that's done correctly, and the proper material is put down. So that, in a year's time, you don't have your floors all scuffed up, scratched up, and faded. Just a couple of examples.
Well, one thing I think that to kind of move beyond the surface is to go behind the walls. As builders, we have a certain industry product that is delivered to us, and it's mostly a kiln-dried spruce, and that's our framing material. A lot of these are young, immature trees because we don't have old growth forests. We're dealing with raw product that has a tendency, even if it's been treated to the maximum industry standards, still has problems with warping occasionally. Over time, the product will sometimes twist. When you walk into a MorningStar home at the frame stage, right before we start covering up, it's been sitting in that condition for several months generally because we're doing all the rough ends. Before we get all of that completed, we go through that house and systematically do a frame check to check every wall to make sure it's plumb, and we do the type of frame quality control that, frankly, a lot of builders don't do. And one day I walked in and, with an inspector, and he said it looked like a red paint bottle had been slaughtered in this house. And the joke was we had gone through the house, and anytime we take a big 10-foot level and put it on a wall and make sure that every wall is plumb. And John and I do that personally.
Yeah, I got a chuckle, real. I'm not going to name the builder, but there was a young man in the neighborhood doing a frame check. To his credit, he was checking the studs in the house to make sure that they weren't bowed in and out. He was using a 2-foot level. You've got to lay something that's perfectly straight, at least 6 to 8 feet on a wall. to determine which one of your studs are moving in and out.
And then, how are you going to correct that problem without totally reframing the house? And to know how to do that and know all the different methodologies is important, because ultimately we're craftsmen who have to be able to deal with the cards we're dealt. That really is the distinguishing factor, because we all have the same material shipped to us from the building supply houses. But guess what? When you go to hang that picture and the wall is true and straight and plumb, you're not going to notice it.
Thank you, John and Steve. Let's take a break. We have plenty to talk about when we get back.